The success of Tattoo City has attracted opportunistic politicians in Kenya. Today, we are blowing the whistle. We are blowing the whistle on extortion, an extortion attempt by the governor of Kiambu County, it's Governor Kimani Wamatangi, and his aide, Salome Wainaina, who is the CEC member for Lands, Housing, Physical Planning, Municipal Administration, and Urban Development. Today, we strongly condemn Salome Wainaina and Governor Wamatangi for attempting to extort foreign direct investors, international investors in Kenya from New Zealand, the United States, United Kingdom, and Norway. These individuals here have held up for more than a year and a half the approval of Tattoo City's new master plan. All the while, they try to seize 40 acres of land from Tattoo City, including land for Governor Wamatangi's residence. The value of the land they are trying to take from Tattoo City is 4.3 billion shillings.
The county government of Kiambu has officially, in writing, requested Tattoo City to surrender land for public amenities, including 10 acres for social housing to accommodate low-cadre workers within the industrial park, and the residential areas such as those in the industries, for housekeepers, cleaners, security personnel, and their families. We also requested 44 acres for a stadium, community center, social hall, hospital, and administration offices. 2 acres for the construction of the governor's official residence. In accordance with the law and the Salaries and Remuneration Commission, SRC guidelines, for the avoidance of doubt, this will be a public facility registered in the name of the county government and not in the governor's name. So we, the county government of Kiambu, feel compelled to address and correct the misleading and malicious claims made by the management of Tattoo City regarding the approval of the revised master plan. It is with great dismay that we witness the attempt to tarnish my administration's reputation by spreading grossly distorted information in the matters at hand.
All right, and that has been, of course, one of the catnip issues, between Wamatangi and Tattoo City. Planners now backs, that is Planners Body, KIP, the Kenya Institute of Planners, backing governor's call for Tattoo City to hive off land. And it says that Kiambu Governor Kimani Wamatangi has reiterated his demand that Tattoo City surrenders land for public amenities. As Wamatangi remained unmoved yesterday, the Kenya Institute of Planners also supported the demands, stating that the Kiambu County government is justified in requesting Tattoo City to surrender land for public use. In a statement, KIP Governing Council emphasized that the reservation of land for public purposes and public utility allocation is mandated by the Physical and Land Use Planning Act, PLUPA 2019, and Tattoo City cannot evade this provision. While we sympathize with the plea of Tattoo City, we must underscore the importance of reserving land for public purposes and public utility allocations are subsequent surrender based on PLUPA. And that is what now we need to interrogate briefly with our panelists, this latest development that we have from Kiambu County. So in light of that particular act, I remember that act was very contentious when it was being, of course, drafted and people were debating about it at the end of the day, and it is now coming to bear. Yes, there's that provision, but also that we have threshold on how much land we should cede. That's the question, because maybe you can actually take advantage of that particular provision and you ask too much, then what should be granted?
Correct.
And that's the quagmire that we're in. We've had a 2 acre of land for the governor's mansion at the end of the day. So these are also questions we need to probe, right? Could we begin with Professor Gituro Wainaina?
Well, there are questions which come into play here. We have to move from the fact that Tattoo City actually bought this land. I think it's over 200 acres. They bought the land. And when they did that, and do recall, because it's one of the Vision 2030 initiatives.
Yes.
And having gone there 3-4 times, and he went through all that, they have set a lot of land for public use. There's no problem with that. And therefore, it's important to appreciate the true ownership of that land. It's a Tatu city. The second point which comes in, it's when you 40 acres, then you need 2 acres for governor's house. The question comes into play, where does the governor live today? Must he live in Tatu city? Really? What's the whole thing about it? And I think what I hear from the Tatu city are saying, yes, we have public land. And they have said public land for that purposes. And one of the things people also don't realize, they actually bought coffee farm. They have actually like 200 acres or 20 acres where they are growing coffee, and they'll be adding value. As Tatu city, it's not just the idea of housing. If you go to their office, you pass fantastic coffee there. Beautiful coffee, well tended and productive. What they are saying, if I got him right, is yes, but if the county government want public land, and I'm wondering for what? Because the public land will look for health opportunities, will look for education. Those are the things now you pay for the public. There must be a certain nominal fee for you to do that. And I'm wondering what kind of schools or what kind of hospitals is the Kiambu County really want from Tatu City. And let me say an experience we went through Kiambu Institute of Science and Technology. When we were called in names, thieves. And it's very interesting, Diba and the team here. You could be in politics today and you are shouting you have all the arrogance in the world you can think about.
Maybe you could give us a context of where you're being called thieves.
I'm bringing it there.
Yeah.
And the guy now, they don't see eye to eye with the government, the one who was actually abusing us. Now, these characters, and actually they are characters, wanted the land in Kiambu. And you say, no, this land has ownership. You can't just come in and then we want 50 acres. The same thing is playing out in Tatu City. Yeah, and it's more serious in Tatu because in Tatu City is a people who actually own it. Kiambu is a people of Kiambu who bought that land. And I think we need to distinguish that where the public land, and it's a requirement. When you have a big institution like Tatu City, it's required by law. But if I want to use it as Kiambu want, pay some nominal fee for it.
Right.
And it's sad.
Maybe if
my brother, when you say I want my house there, 2 acres as a governor.
And who says that land, that land that he's asking for, if he builds the governor's house, is the next governor going to live in that house? We have seen this. Let people learn to. The governor should live in his own house so that when he's fired, which he will, he'll go back to his house. Why do you want to build a big, lavish mansion that you, after 5 years, if he lasts, will be fired?
Yeah, what is this neurosis with the governor's mansions?
I don't understand.
Everywhere. Some of them also that they have underpass that goes to the sea or to the ocean.
Can I weigh in on this? Let me just say this, and it's just been burning.
Yeah. I think I was finishing that. I have no relations with the Wainaina there, the days. And I'm sorry that he's pointing the name Wainaina. But I would like to challenge you. Call him here. He used to come here.
Yes.
Let him come, tell us Kenyans. Let's question him. And it's I don't know. Is he and what? When you don't have a house, what do you say if you are nowhere to sleep?
Homeless.
Is he homeless as we talk? No. And I come from that county. It's purely.
Quite honestly.
Okay, given that you have, or it's a requirement by the law, and that's earlier. Where do you stop in terms of asking for the land? Because you can use this also act as to weaponize or to try and actually get so much from an individual or an enterprise that you should. Is there any threshold? I've not read the act itself.
You know, Dibale, even without going into those details, this is private land for private development that was acquired. They bought that land. They must be allowed to use it the best way they know how. I am sure, and I have no doubt, and if you inquire, I'm under any instructions from the Tatu City developers, but I know for a fact that they must have provision for public utilities within the greater scheme of things.
They do.
And with that,
I've interviewed them before they do. Yeah.
That is enough. Now, it is ridiculous for the governor to then start saying, I want 2 acres, even he's being specific, 2 acres as if it's his land. I think, and I'm sorry, due respect to Governor Wamatangi, he used to sit with us here. I don't think he learned much from these conversations, honestly speaking. You cannot issue such a statement and start saying, so how safe is my land? How safe is your land, Professor? That tomorrow, the governor of Kiambu or the governor of Nairobi can come and say, now in that 5 acres of yours, I want 1 acre to put my house because I've identified that. Kiambu County has enough land. He can go and live in Karura or wherever he wants. But you cannot attack the private. And what's the message for the investors who are coming into this country?
That's it.
If you start behaving like this and allowing this, I think you're going to be in a lot of trouble as a country. It is important that he's called back to order and develop good manners so that he's able to appreciate this is private land. It must be left to the private developers so that they are able to achieve their objective of investing in buying that 200 acres. Why are you cutting off 2 acres? And that is part of the great plan for Tatu City. There is provision within the Tatu City of public utilities that can be used, but don't bring Kiambu politics into private sector.
My case is more emotional about what I saw on the TV because my dad tried to get land in Tatu City in 1927 and he never got. So 100 years later, we have investors from New Zealand, from Norway, from UK and US getting that land. So it's very interesting that what my father could not get, the international investors or foreign investors are able to get it because they probably have more dollars than my dad. But that apart, I saw this case also in Vipingo. I had some people claiming that Vipingo should also surrender some land for public utilities. But what I've noted from practice is once that land is given out, it's always sold to somebody else.
Yes.
So that's my biggest concern, that even if they are saying that that is going to be put into public use, it might never be put into public use. It might be put into private use. But the bigger issue is, why should, I'm sure Kiambu has a lot of other pieces of land. Tatu, there are coffee estates, there are tea estates and so on. Why particular interest in Tatu City? Why not other estates? Why not other locations? Why are they not being told to surrender land for public use? And I know all these new developments have some public land.
They do.
And this Tatu was not set up today. It was set up many years ago. So why now? I think that's a question we should be asking. But we should also be asking an even deeper question of ownership of land in this country. Right. How do you get ownership of land? Is it because you have money? Is it because you are connected? Or is it because you can use your power to acquire it? I believe that land is like any other factor of production. So if Kiambu really want land, why can't they also buy it? What is so hard with buying that land? Because if we allow this to happen, we are starting a precedent, as my friend put it. Tomorrow somebody will come and tell me, this acre of yours is too much, can I get an eighth? Or this 5 acres of yours is too much, can I get 12? So a part of it. So I think this issue should be handled cautiously. It should be handled with other unintended consequences. Because if it happens the way it is being portrayed in the media, then it sets a precedent which is not very good for, not just for investors, but local investors.
And they actually say they have set 100, in the master plan, they have 103 lands for set for public purpose only. So they have already thought through.
Yeah, this is just corruption at its best.
Process.
All right, I'm just looking at the report if my director may just
Of
pick
the
it up.
Tatu City.
Of the Tatu City. I think this was the report on also, it captures the land use. If you just look at page 40, part 4, land use plan. Design consideration, the design for Tatu City's land use considered various elements such as regional context. I want to go through all that. The following regional aspects were considered during the design of a development: Nairobi Metro, the 2030 strategy, the Ruiru ISUDP 2018-2022 28 draft, extensive development trends and directions of growth, potential linkages and integration with current as well as anticipated or potential urban environments and system. The Nairobi Metro 2030 vision indicates the entire area around Ruiru town as a future development area for residential development. In terms of the strategy, new developments are encouraged to follow the neighborhood development concept, which focuses on mixed-use development to optimize the utilization of scarce land resources in the metropolitan region. Existing development trends and directions of growth also are given there. Then we go to structuring elements. I'll leave that out. Protect ecological sensitivity areas. I'll leave that out. But we can come to what I saw here. Think of some of the public utilities that now we're talking about public land. Can see where that is. Let me just try and look at it. Transportation system that is given. Parks and recreation facilities. Recreational spaces reflects quality of life in a community. That is part of public.
Yes.
Yeah. They provide identity for citizens as always, and are always cited as key factors in surveys of how livable communities are. These spaces also provide gathering areas for individuals, families, and social groups of all ages and economic statuses. Parks and recreation facilities are places where people gather for relaxation and physical activities that promote healthy living and stay fit. It is on this basis that Tatu City has incorporated parks and recreational facilities throughout the city. Tatu City's parks and recreational facilities provide opportunities for active and passive recreational activities. These are networks categorized into paths, trails, and paths, and mostly they had spaces flanking vehicular corridors and run through parks, squares, and plazas. The path and the trail networks are designed around populated hotspots. They've given also the map there. There was also land use plan. The following section deals with different components of the development core, which are nodes and development parcels. I don't want to go to the gritty details of that, but we can try and see. Okay, that is the land use budget. They're actually given up and broken down also for their health facilities.
Right.
They're all given here. If you may just pick up maybe the report, you can look at it, but it'll just give you an indication that all these factors were considered. The question I wanted to ask, especially maybe it comes to recreational, of what material utility is a stadia for Kiambu County?
Is it what, sorry? Come again?
Of what material utility is a stadia? Do we need a stadia there?
Future World Cup.
Future World Cup in Kiambu.
We're in Tatu City.
No, just in Kiambu or in Tatu City for that, because also what they really want is
Improve
if you had.
You already have.
Yeah, because
improve the ones which are already existing there, which are in tatters.
that's what I'm saying. Don't we have our
Kirigiti.
There's
the Kirigiti? Yeah, why do we need another stadia?
I think it's just a case of grass looking green on the other side. They're just getting complacent. If you look at this, there's no justification of what.
And I think
Governor
this is where the
Matang
national government should come very clearly.
Yes.
And of course, there are all these birds of the same feathers, but it should come very clearly in terms of really, I would say, a low governor here thinks he can walk through with his shoulders high with his four offices in Tatu City and bring order, bring some sense of responsibility. That's it.
I agree. Actually, I think for us as a country, we must look at the underlying message that is being passed across to the rest of the world. Because here we are with we are double speaking. We are asking investors, we are wooing investors to come into the country. And on the other hand, we have a rogue governor who is messing up with already investors who have come to develop something that is likely to develop change the landscape of Kiambu, create employment, I've seen there are some SEZs and EPZs within the Tatu City establishment. Right. They're going to create employment. But we cannot be so narrow-minded that to start thinking selfishly about the governor's house. For heaven's sake, there are greater and bigger problems to deal with.
Where were the other governors staying, by the way?
Where were they? Where does he live now, right now? And he must be reminded, if he has not heard us, let him be reminded that 5 years down the line when he's not governor, he will not live in that house. And nobody cares about that house. Let everybody, you see, I live in my own private house. I come and go from my own house. And I've learned that way from when I was in private sector and public sector. It is good manners to learn to depend on your resources. When you live in this big house that is furnished and funded by the government, when you leave, they suffer from very complicated diseases. Depression, he's not used to this big lounge, and the servants. Let everyone, and in fact that will be the message even to the president. The people you are appointing today or tomorrow, whenever you do, let them use their own private cars so that they learn the cost of repairing these cars, so that they learn the cost of fuel, so that they learn that they are also Kenyans. There is over-dependence on government where you are driving government house, you are living in a car, government house, government servant. When
maintenance allowance for the car that you've been given by the government.
You're given a house allowance, you're given a house, and then when you are out,
you paid for,
you suffer from depression.
All the utilities in the houses at the end of the day.
You suffer from depression. Let people live within their means. And I think that's why even the president is being asked, can the country also live within its means? If we are not collecting so much tax, let's try and manage ourselves within what we are able to put together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Ex-Senator, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, so I think he is bringing a bigger issue. So it's not just about the governor of Kiambu, it's about the whole government structure. Yes. And I talked earlier about innovations in government, so that we not just talk about you being a governor, be a cabinet secretary, but the whole structure, things like allowances, houses, transport, and so on. We need to look at all of them. Mm-hmm. Do you really need a house for the governor? Do you need a house for all the civil servants? Or should we give you your house allowance, you go and build your house the way you want and where you want? So it's a bigger issue than just Tatu City.
All right, let me just rope in Patrick Obatha. I want to give him time to breathe because
I'm not sure because
he has been in the board meeting. Maybe he's got information as well. He can tell me.
The list, maybe the list has come.
But of course, with the story we're following, you've been following doggedly as well. The Tatu City and Wamatangi and the planning of that city that they need an acreage, 54 acres from a particular land. I don't know what.
My view on this one is very clear. I mean, this is an SEZ, and the SEZ is bound by its rules. And when you deliver the original plan for the SEZ, just like when you're doing a housing estate, before you start breaking ground, you deliver your overall plan for the place.
Right.
And when you do that one, they'll tell you, make sure you've got this, you've got this, you've got that, you've got that, which are the minimum things that are required. And those ones are basically public spaces, shopping, what have you, all those infrastructure that services that community. Yeah? And I believe that Tatu City had done that right from day one.
Yes.
And those facilities are in there already.
Yes.
To then come back and say, because you're not doing your next strategy, right, on that thing, we now want you to change what had been approved on day one, because all they were doing was submitting the next development stage of their business. And for the governor to then come back and say, please hive off land, I think is completely, I mean, I think it's, I'll use the word counterproductive to make it a bit, to make it soft, yeah? But, it is part of the reason why we've got these Gen Zs on the road, right? You are seeing people making, demands that do not tie up with the norms that we expect of leadership in this country. And if there's a need to build a governor's house, take it through the due process. Don't stop somebody else's business because you want land for your whatever it is, for your house. Let them continue the development and then have a discussion about, I need to have space in this development of yours for my house. Can we talk? Yeah? But don't use your office to stop development.
Correct.
That is what I call policy corruption, right up front. And they call it corruption, I call it policy corruption. Using your position to stop people until you do what, they do what you want. That is corruption, it's part of it, right? Here there's no money changing hands, but it is just using your office. And I'm sorry, Governor Wamatangi, that is exactly the kind of error that you should not be having in this country.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I whereas the planners are backing that thing, I think they're backing up the wrong tree.
Oh, yes.
Up the wrong tree completely. If this is the kind of way you're treating
Investors
in this country, you're changing things. You're changing the laws all the time. You shouldn't.
Shifting goalposts.
So if you want a space for the governor's house, please
Acquire
go
it
and apply and talk to them and do it that way, but don't stop businesses from moving forward.
the confidence that we need to imbue as a country that there's predictability.
Yeah.
This is
Yes.
what they've been raising. We have such an uncertain environment when it comes to business that you'll put up a business and the tax regime will change the next day, that it's adversely affecting you.
Yeah.
Such kinds of policies that now really comes from the left. You have a new strategy and you find the game is changing along the way from what you had actually had a contractual agreement on. Right, so you can speak to that particular, because this is not the first time. This is epitomizing what many investors have been decrying, the fact that we have such an unpredictable environment that really fosters confidence from the investors to come and invest here.
They say capital is a coward.
Is a coward, yeah.
And it will only settle where it feels comfortable and welcome. And it's also very fluid. Taking Tatu City investment to another country is very easy because they're the ones who are carrying the capital. So we must also be very careful how we handle such cases. And if we allow this one case, I promise you, Debal, if we allow that to go on and checked and without anybody's intervention to stop it, then we'll have opened a Pandora's box, and every other land, doesn't matter where it is, will be asked to hive off.
But Debal, I think we're also forgetting that the leaders of Tatu City talked because they have a forum. What about the other people who have been suffering at the bottom?
Correct.
People trying to get approval for their buildings, for their houses, and waiting for the same length of time. So it's not just the international investors or foreign investors, even local investors are suffering.
Yeah.
And we are saying that instead of the counties facilitating development and growth, they are the people stopping on the way to people investing. So if you try and build a house or a residential own house in one of the counties, the approval process sometimes takes so long. And then the prices go up. And then people change their mind. So I think we are talking about good governance, not just at the national level, but at the counties. Because counties have certain responsibilities, and they should take them seriously.
I saw in one time there was a governor, not to be named, who was actually demanding, if you're building an apartment block, he demands like 2 apartments before you can get approval. It was there, it came out in the papers.
Yeah.
And that is wrong. That is absolutely wrong, and all it serves is to make this country look so dirty, so unpredictable, so investor unfriendly, to the extent that unless we are serious about what we keep saying, we must walk the talk. Sometimes it's painful, but we have to take some painful steps.
I'll just dive in on this. This subject you're talking about, I think Prof. Iraqi, thank you for that. When you look at what the Gen Zs are doing, and they're talking about corruption, this is not what they're talking about. They're talking about corruption that hits their day-to-day lives.
Yes.
And that is this is just an example of what rot there is that is all the way down the provision of services in the county offices, in the national government offices. And when they talk about corruption, it's not ground corruption. It is just the daily things that you want something, you got to pay a small amount of this, you got to do this, you got to do that. That is what is draining the economy in this country. And if you're going to have a change, and I think the Gen Zs are absolutely right on this one, it has to start from the top and work down. And this thing that is being talked about here, I stopped this thing because I need land for a governor's house, is a perfect example about what the Gen Zs are talking about in this country.
So what do you make about the discernment also of the institutes, institutional bodies such as KIP, who are endorsing what Governor Matangi is doing? I know most of you actually you subscribe to this institutions, this Institute of Engineers as well, and you have them really backing this particular development of Tatu City and Matangi, and they are leaning on Matangi's side.
I would not like to comment on that, but for me, there's smoke, and this is all smoke, and there is something lower below that I'd like to understand. For a body like this to back what in common sense doesn't look right, it means that there is something below that that we need to unpack that has caused them to actually come into that situation. It isn't common sense, it isn't the common law that we have in this country. It is something else altogether.
But I think what they are giving here, interesting, if this is correct, they are saying that the county, according to the correspondence in by the Standard, has requested Tatu City as a condition for the new renewal, the reservation or utilization of 50 acres of public amenities. That's what they're saying, the institute. However, Tatu City, in his wisdom, and saw the need for this, have already 103 set aside.
103.
Yes,
but
for that. They saw,
no provision
they
for
saw that
governor's
we
house.
need these amenities, there will be people, there might be a school, there will be whatever. We
Of
have
course,
them.
yeah, in your planning,
And
you
I
consider that.
I smell what my Patrick is saying. This institute, you don't trust the institution. And I think there's a sense we need to bring in this country. You can't trust institutions. You can't trust going to a police officer. You can't trust going to a hospital. You can't trust politicians. We need to bring some sanity.
Absolutely.
It's lack of sanity completely.
And
It's rotten.
that's why Dubai nowadays, one of the interesting questions I see on WhatsApp groups, and I'm sure all of you are in that, is somebody will tell you, do you know somebody KPLC? Do you know somebody in that hospital? Do you know somebody in that county?
Yeah.
Because people believe that unless you know someone, something can never be done for you.
Yeah,
Yet, as my prof said, institutions are supposed to facilitate provision of services,
Exactly.
not hindering delivery of services.
And then, and the thought behind that is, how do we then treat offenders like this?
Yes.
They are going to be heralded, they are going to be looked at like heroes, as you can see, instead of being punished.
And you know the bottom line.
This
there?
must be punished, and he must be
But
called
the
out.
bottom line, if the Kiambu County allows this to go ahead, they'll probably benefit more than this individual benefiting.
Yes.
If they let go, this is your master plan. They are going to do more. They'll get more from taxes. They'll
That's
get
true.
more from that particular institution than going to two individuals, Wahome and Wainena and this fellow. And that's the kind of thing I think the governor, with all respect, should be seeing the big picture. It's not about me as the governor, because me as a governor has a time limit.
Can I also add something?
Right.
Tatu City is in perpetuity.
Let me add something. If you go to Kilifi, Governor Kingi then, now Speaker of Senate, when I was in the Chamber of Commerce, we actually did an investment conference for Kilifi County. And during that time, the late Chris Kirubi had an interest in Vipingo Estate, where he had bought some land and wanted to develop a housing estate. I was lucky to have midwifed a process where there was a lockdown like this. And the governor was saying, no, you must give us conditions, this condition, this condition. And Chris said, this is a private development. I will give the support to the county in terms of developing infrastructure that will support you in your work to create employment and create development in Kilifi County. But I will not succumb to this pressure from your local team. And when we then called for that truce, what Chris did then, he sponsored the investment conference free of charge. He paid 20 million to the investment conference. The county benefited. Today the estate has been developed and continues to be developed. The locals are benefiting from the amenities that go around the construction work. And that is the picture that I would like Governor Wamatangi to see. Don't get trivial and petty about a governor's house for 2 years. It's really petty, for lack of a better word.
All right, let's leave it at that. Okay, so I want us to wind up. I'll be remiss if we don't really talk about the fuel levy as well, the road levy that has been tucked away into the fuel levy. And I think just picking up with Engineer Patrick Obath, that addressed this question during the last forum that we had.
Yes.
And they sort of threw me off the rails when I raised it, because they, but that has been sorted with the finance bill, that has really been sorted. We cannot really talk about road levy. Now here we are with the latest stroker, which is a decision to implement the 7 shilling fuel levy increase as we know it. This has sparked a national uproar, as there was public participation and the people rejected the levy increase proposal. And we had the former Transport Minister, Kipchumba Murkomen, had before President Ruto sacked him, sacked his entire cabinet, hinted that the government will consider an alternative. Only for, people to go to, how those items had been itemized, and seeing somewhere there that the road levy has just been sneaked in very furtively, and now that will reflect in our fuel pumps as well. So this is where we missed the slip road.
We missed the slip road here.
Yeah.
As I said,
you actually made me doubt myself. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. I think what you're seeing here is precisely why this nation has gone to where it is at the moment with all these protests. Where the CS categorically came and said everybody is against this thing, right? And it was obvious with all the whatever it is, all the presentations that were made, were that people are against this because it's going to add to the cost of living in the country and everything else and so forth, right? Just like the finance bill, everybody said exactly the same thing, and then you go and fund up whatever it is and say put it in Parliament and pass it.
And you have public participation.
And you've had
People have given
public
their
participation,
voice.
which tells you the opposite, and then you go ahead and do this. So even in this one, if it was within the remit of the minister, of the CS, to actually sign it off into reality, yeah, then it just shows, yeah, the way that the leadership at that point in time, some of which has gone now, was operating. Right? And this thing, from everything that had happened, and it also, you remember, it was being talked about after the bill had gone through.
Yeah.
Yeah? That public participation was happening and so forth, and the bill was going separately. So we would have expected anybody in their right mind to stop this.
To read the signs.
Yeah, and that's why I say we missed a slip road. Yeah? We should have gone down there to see what was going on down there before coming back onto the highway. And obviously, kule chini, some other people were sort of scheming different things. And I think this is the disingenuousness of government, where things are happening at the high level. You're seeing indicators that things should not happen that way. Now, huku chini, people think I'm in charge here. Let me do my own thing and make things happen. I think that was not right in this one. And I think the EPRA in itself as a body is also showing the same signs as its leadership. And I would actually urge EPRA as an organization to really examine themselves, right? There is a need to raise revenue, obviously, to maintain the roads and everything else. But my view, and now I digress a bit, the reason we are needing so much money to maintain the roads is that they were not built in the right way in the first place. Yeah? Yes. These are some of the things that we're talking about, corruption and excesses in the country. The money that is put in the fuel levy, which is supposed to develop infrastructure and maintain roads, in fact, it was supposed to maintain, not build. That's what it was supposed to do in the initial place. It is actually, most of it is being spent to build, and then build badly. And then you're now saying we need to maintain them, so add more money. So I think, again, this is just the tip of the iceberg. When you're seeing this increase in the levy, below that, there are bigger things that need to be dealt with. And that, again, is part of what the country is saying. Corruption at that level. And if you remember, I think there was this story that that went along before, that before the Chinese came to build roads here, we used to, there's about 6 layers on the road that you have to put one after the other to build up the surface, yeah? That out of the 6, only 3, yeah? Only 3 were actually put down. Each layer, there was somebody who sort of said, no, you layer moja nitole hiyo ni yangu. Yeah? And the money went that way. So you only had 3 layers left and things couldn't happen. And that is why when you look at the thicker superhighway, yeah? How much maintenance is being done on that road from the time it was built? It was because of the quality of construction.
Right.
And look at all the other roads that were done before that time. They are spending billions to repair them all the time.
Indeed, and of course we're living in very interesting times. So this is not a time when you'll assume that we really have a dim comprehension of what is really happening with the finance bill, that you can actually just tuck away something. I mean, these are the keen eye of Kenyans who are picking these little things as well at the end of the day. So there is no way the government can actually hide any or try and slip in, as they normally do with the miscellaneous amendment bills. That people don't read sometimes, and you find, like even for the legislators with their degrees. At some point, they were saying, oh, we should have introduced, for you to be as a leader in this country, you must be a degree holder. And they slept through it and it passed. Only for them to flock to State House to ask President Kibaki to, make sure he doesn't really assent to that particular bill at the end of the day. All right, let's just give our closing remarks, because I can see also we are pinched for time.
Yeah.
So the road levy slipped. Now it will reflect. But there was public participation. Kenyans rejected it. And this goes to show as well that the government is speaking from both sides of the mouth.
Absolutely.
Right. Your closing remarks?
Yeah, thank you very much, Debal. I think for me, we are at a very critical time of our lives, a defining moment, and we must seize this moment, much as it has been brought to us, from a very interesting source, the Gen Zs. But maybe, first of all, let me just say, from where I sit in the Micro and Small Enterprises Authority, I have 2 Gen Zs in the board. And one of the things that they have continuously done is to check me all the time, check the board. And they are quick on the internet, quick on artificial intelligence, to be able to identify some of the things that we may not see from where I sit. And I appreciate the 2, Felix Chege and Adan. They really help, and I know the Gen Zs mean well. If only we listen to them and embrace some of the ideas. To the president, as he appoints, let him remind the people that he's appointed that they are Kenyans, ordinary Kenyans, who have just been given a position to serve. They must be able to take care of their bills like any other Kenyan, pay for their fuel, pay for their transport, pay for their housing, and accept lower pay, because these are extraordinary times where extraordinary decisions must be made. And finally, I want to ask the president to look just beneath the candle. That is the darkest part. They say the darkest part of a candle is just beneath it. The room may look nice and rosy, but he needs to check what is happening just beneath the candle there. That is where the problem is. A lot of things that he says or thinks or expects have been done, have not been done. But it is so close to him, he might not be able to see. He might have to step out and spot all the funny things that are happening.
Thank you.
Around his.
All right, let's hear from...
Mine is very simple. We
Iraqi.
have 2 big issues in this country, politics and economics. And political solutions are easier than economic problems. That's why we need new thinking and new innovation. And very interesting, we are back to where we were 30 years ago. IMF, when they came 30 years ago, they talked about transparency and accountability. And that's what we're asking for. If we have to move this country forward, there must be more transparency, more accountability from the government officials, from individuals, and from institutions.
Fantastic. Professor Gituro.
Yeah, I want to add in the Standard Readers Corner, there's somebody called in the call named, he says, it doesn't matter who did what or doing what. The fact remains poor governance and leadership has awakened up every citizen, even those who aren't interested in politics. Instead of blame games, why can't he, as a president, fix a government now that he is the leader?
Yes.
And a quick one, the CEOs in town are happy because there are no ministers to ask for order from the government. They're very happy. CEOs for parastatals. And the parting shot, those in politics, please follow the example of Misla. There's a time you could not touch this fella called misery. Now he's in misery.
Right. But is it because also of the politics of the day that is in misery, right? That's the question. Patrick, about finally?
I'll do the same thing. I'll go to the front page of the Standard. Just on the right of that, on that very big red blob next to Kioni. It says the leaders cannot agree on a common path. They claw at each other instead of checking the government.
Absolutely.
And here we are asking who are the leaders of Gen Z. This is exactly what will happen if you have leaders.
Yeah,
right? They will not be able to have that common purpose. But by having this distributed leadership, you have come out with a very clear common purpose. I think we need to learn from the fact that a leaderless society, where the society is responsible for itself and leads itself, is probably the most successful if they can work going forward.
Absolutely.
Well put.
Right. Gentlemen, thank you for that discussion as well. Very informative. cogent discussion we've had this morning. I really appreciate you coming through as well. James Murray, good to see you after a while. From the team sky, you're now down to the ground. Axel Iraqi, thank you for coming through. Gituro Naina, thank you for coming through. Engineer Patrick Obath as well, we really do appreciate it. All right, you've been watching Sokoni here in Morning Prime. Don't go away. Remember,
Great studio.
News Diaries up next.
Yeah.